I see it is 3:30, so we will go ahead and get session 7C started. And this is going to be a pretty quick moving session. So I'll let you know who the speakers are going to be, the lineup, and then we'll get started. We're going to be hearing from Hope Roberts, Megan Geary, Kira Hart, Nick Schlostein, and I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
Schlostein's fine. Yeah, no worries.
And then Emily Becker, and we will finish up this session with Lisa Roach. So if you want to go ahead and get started, Hope, I will pull up your presentation.
Cool. Okay. Hi, I'm Hope Roberts. I am currently the Intertribal liaison at Chugach Regional Resources Commission and a licensed foster parent. I was actually in foster homes as a child myself, but I've come a long way. Anyway, in the last year or so, it occurred to me that there is a connection with Indigenous food and the foster system, or the lack of, that. So what I do is I advocate for continued access to traditional fish and wildlife resources and for more collaborative land and resource management on the traditional lands of the Chugach Sugpiaq people. And I think that there are opportunities to do more to promote Indigenous food sovereignty. Sorry, I wrote notes and then I went ahead of myself. So I noticed that when I became a foster parent that Indigenous foods were really powerful for these kids that are already going through a traumatic life change before, the age of 5. And I just recently became accustomed to my own culture about 7 years ago when my husband taught me how to seal hunt. And I was on an island when I took my first seal harvest and realized who I was for the first time in 36 years. And so when I care for these children, it occurred to me that if we can introduce these foods to these kids while they're going through such difficult times, maybe they can experience the cultural breakthrough that I did when I was hunting out there at an early age, that maybe they can be introduced to their culture when they're not even in their culture. And I've shared this on a Facebook forum for foster parents, and the argument was that the children didn't even know what sealed meat was and seal oil was, and the lack of knowledge between the foster homes that are not Native and how Indigenous food is so powerful to Native people is where I think that the problem is. So even though she was arguing with me, I see that maybe we could normalize, find a way to normalize teaching the OCS system how powerful it is to connect Native kids to their own food. And I noticed, I looked on the statistics of the OCS page. There's a statistics page. In the month of February, there are 3,033 children in care. 68% were Alaskan Native kids. So I think that the more that I work on this, I think that I can find a way to create a forum or a platform to help the mostly non-Native caregivers how and why it is powerful and healing and helpful for these children to be introduced to their Native foods, even if it's just moose meat or salmon. And I think that we can reverse the numbers eventually by doing this, because in order to heal the Native people, like for myself, I'm using myself as an example because I went through so much healing at the time of hunting on those islands out there, the Prince William Sound, that I think that there's an avenue here to help these children that are already at risk. And Eva is supposed to be my co-presenter, so I don't know if she's on or not, if she wanted to introduce herself. Sorry, I wasn't going along with my presentation slides. I just kind of put them on there in case I forgot.
I'm in the car, Hope.
Perfect.
Like I promised I would be. Yeah, I just was really fascinated when Hope took this aspect of traditional foods, because I do know firsthand how important it is for healing. And actually, scientifically, it takes about 7 generations for the gut biome to adapt to a new food system. And so if you think about the time frame of statehood and how Native people have been living, you know, there wasn't this foster care system full of Native children not in their culture. And, you know, in my work, I work with a lot of youth. I work with all generations, and it doesn't matter what generation it is. We have our elders saying, we need elders camp. We need to learn how to be elders because we were taken away from our culture. We were taken away from our language. We were taken away from these teachings and knowledge. And now we understand that we're getting older and we need to pass on knowledge. And so, you know, even though somebody might not realize that the Native children need their culture, it's when you place them in that, immerse them in it, give them an opportunity to do it, and then you'll see that a lot of them will really, really enjoy it. And I am a fish camp director and a culture camp director, so I create these intergenerational healing and learning spaces and centralizing it around food, because everything comes out of food. The things that we need for art, our language, our recipes, our ceremonies, our song and dance. So I just really, and I'm to give myself a little, to give a little background on who I am. I work for the Alaska Center for Climate Assessment and Policy, and I just wanted to throw that in there and really support Hope in this work.
Cool, thank you, Eva. That's pretty much what I had.
Okay, well, thank you, both of you, Hope and Eva. And I would also say that's very interesting about the gut biome. I found that an interesting, I know for everybody, it's, you don't want to change what you're eating too fast. All right, Megan, are you ready?
I am. Let me pull up my slideshow. Everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Awesome. And I did see Brad St. Pierre here, so feel free to jump in with me anytime you'd like, Brad. But hello, everyone. My name is Megan Geary. I am the local foods coordinator for the Alaska Farmers Market Association. And I am here today to talk to you just in this brief presentation about the Alaska Farmers Markets Toolkit that we've been working on. I do know that some of you might not know what AFMA is or what we do, so I thought I'd just start with an overview of our programs before jumping into this specific project. Let me see, there we go. So the Alaska Farmers Market Association is exactly what it sounds like. It's an association of all the farmers markets in the state. And our mission is to support and promote vibrant and sustainable farmers markets throughout the state of Alaska. So that is specific and also vague. We want to support and promote all of the farmers markets, and that can look a variety of different ways. So we do this through webinars and trainings, through things like the project I'm going to talk about in a minute here, and also through an online directory and a network system of the farmers markets around our state. But really, the goal of all of that is just to strengthen our local food economy and our food system and get fresh, healthy, and local foods into our communities in the most direct way possible, which is straight from our farmers. So I have to start with a shout out for our fearless leaders, Brad St. Pierre and Robbie Mixon. I think they're both in the room with us, so I don't know if you guys want to chime in, but Robbie is our executive director and Brad is our board president. They are both absolute rock stars. In the words of Brad, rock stars gotta rock, and they sure do. They are absolutely incredible. And you have probably, well, you've seen both of them in the plenary rooms. Robbie is also the executive director of the Alaska Food Policy Council. So much of our work overlaps, and we are all working toward the same goal of food security in our state. So thank you to both of them. In addition to them, we have Elaine Howell, who's our vice president, Sierra Ryle is our secretary, Lauren Giroux is our treasurer, and we have a very active and incredible board who work on all of these projects with us and are just absolutely amazing people. So I'm also, I had my Homer Farmers Market shirt on earlier today because I'm a Robbie Mixon fangirl. I'll have to throw that out there. But these are this is just a little view of the markets that we support around the state. So way back, I think it was 2005, I'm probably getting that stat wrong. There were 13 farmers markets in our state. In 2019, that was up to 45. And last year we were up to 56. So farmers markets are booming in our state. People are realizing that this is a really great market for farmers to sell their products, for people to sell value-added products, and to create connections in our communities, right? So the farmers can know the consumers that are eating their food, and those consumers can go and shop and put a face to the person who is growing and producing their food in the state of Alaska. So again, the way that we support these farmers markets is through different resources and trainings and that sort of thing. So we offer, we have really cool food wheels and meal planners. This is kind of based off of our food wheel. That is all Alaskan grown or produced or foraged, harvested products that are available year round. We have a robust library of resources on our website. We have information about SNAP and food access programs. And we also have COVID-19 resources, which was a new addition in 2020, obviously. But we try to keep this up to date for everybody just so that they have the most recent research on these different things, the most recent information about food access programs so that they can be implementing that at their farmers markets. So after that super abridged intro to AFMA, now we get into the Alaska Farmers Market Toolkit. So this was funded by a 2020 Specialty Crop Block Grant, and it has been a huge, amazing project that is so close to being done. And this is just kind of a teaser for it. I will plug our summit that's coming up at the end of this presentation, but this is just a teaser and the full kind of reveal will be at our summit. So another reason to join us. But the goal of the Alaska Farmers Markets Toolkit is to help strengthen the management of farmers markets and support the increase of local food sales in Alaska. So we wanted to compile resources into a physical toolkit and an online version that somebody could just say, hey, I want to start a farmer's market in my community. I have no idea how to do that. They could pick this up and have a starting point and a roadmap to be able to create a market and have it be sustained over a long period of time so that it's reliable for both farmers and customers going to it. So another shout out to Kari Odin from Moontide Designs down in Homer, who created our cover artwork. But again, this is a teaser. So you get the cover and you get to know very generally what's in this. But this beautiful cover art was created by Kari. We have our special thanks on the bottom. I have to give a shout out to the Washington State Farmers Market Association, who helped us so that we didn't have to reinvent the wheel. We really looked to them for guidance. And looked at their toolkit that they've created for their state and adapted it and Alaskanized it for our Alaska farmers market managers. But isn't that beautiful? I love it. This is the online format for our toolkit. Like I said, we're also going to do a print version and send it out to all of our farmers market managers across the state. And we're looking into having it available in public spaces like public libraries as well, so that people can access this resource if they don't have reliable internet access or the ability to see it online. But this is kind of the framework for the online version of the toolkit. There are 13 chapters, so we're not going to zoom into any of the content, but I will let you know that we cover business and financial planning, market operations, marketing your market, understanding legal concerns, creating a culture of market food safety, greater food security at farmers markets, equity, making your market count or data collection, vendor management, and then we also have a section on food hubs. So we really tried to cover all of our bases here and give at least a good foundation of information for people starting out, but also make this a resource for established market managers who are looking to enhance their market, improve it, or learn more about ways that they other ways of business and financial planning, or other ways of vendor management that maybe they hadn't thought of before to improve their operations. So this is kind of how it will be structured. On the left side, we'll have all of our chapters, and then when you click into one of them, it'll open up text and we'll have all of the resources linked there. We're not quite finished with it, but that will be unveiled on April 8th at our summit. But this is just the general framework of how it will work. There's kind of subsections for each chapter as well with the different resources. So what else are we up to? We have the toolkit in production. We will be shipping those out in May, and we will have the online version ready to go for our summit. We are also partnered with the Farmers Market Coalition right now on their FMPP grant, which is Farmers Market Promotion Program grant. And they're really focusing on promoting National Farmers Market Week and also improving data collection at the farmers markets, so that we have those data points like earlier in the slides where I said, way back when we had 13 markets and now we're up to 56, things like that, just to show how markets are growing and changing in our state. We also received our own Farmers Market Promotion Program grant, which is amazing. So we're going to be able to do a lot of really cool things with that. The first thing that's coming is a complete website revamp. So I have my own qualms about our directory and its use and updating it. So they are completely revamping all of that. We will have a new and improved directory. The toolkit will be there, and all of our resources and webinar trainings and all of those things that you already love about our website will be still there, but with a facelift, which is going to be fantastic. So what can you do to be involved with the Alaska Farmers Market Association? You can join us as a member. You can join our board. Like I said, we have an incredible, active, passionate board, and we would love to have you as a part of it. You can help on a committee. You can help us with fundraising. You can provide resources for our toolkit, because that online portion is going to be a living document. It will change as time goes on. And we will continue to add to it as new information becomes available. And you can attend our 2022, virtual summit. Oh man. And here is some information on that. So it is free to register. It's just one day from 8 to 5. And we will have a whole slew of guest speakers and workshops, in addition to our keynote speakers, who are Elizabeth A. Ripley, the president and CEO of the Matsu Health Foundation, as well as Dr. Gail Myers, who is the co-founder of Farms to Grow Incorporated. So it should be a really fantastic day. I hope to see you all there. That is rapid fire. I have no idea where I'm at with time. If there's time for questions or if Brad or Robbie want to jump in. But thank you all for listening. And I hope that you're jazzed about the toolkit and that you come to our summit and join us and hear more about it then.
And we do have 1 minute if someone wants to
I was
ask.
right on time. Look at that. I will put my information in the chat as well, so you can email me. Go ahead, Brad, sorry.
I was just going to jump in and say, you know, like you find this like beautiful little bird and then you end up finding out that it's like golden eagles just like flapping later. What's up, Megan? You just killed that. That was awesome.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. And we will jump over to Kira if you're ready.
Thanks, everyone.
Wow, you are just so articulate. I don't know how I'm going to follow up with that. I'll do my best. That was great. Okay, am I able to share my screen?
Yes, you are.
Share. And okay, hi everyone. I'm so honored to be here, and shout out to Alaska Food Policy Council for putting on this stellar event. I'm here to talk to you about another AFMA. I'm really glad that I was after you, Megan, because you got to lay out what AFMA is for me. Supported project called Beginning and Young Alaskan Farmers Chapter. But first I wanted to introduce myself and tell you where I'm situated in our food system. For the last 5 years, I've been living and growing on traditional and unceded Sugpiaq and Dena'ina lands. Why? It won't make me, I can't switch my slide.
Does it work if you just click on it or use the arrow buttons on your key? There.
Thank you. It's a click. That's easy. Where I've been working with my farming mentor, Marcia Rugley. My boyfriend and I live on her and her husband's hobby farm. This is the hobby farm. Marcia makes jams and jellies at the farmer's market for over 20 years. This is Marcia on the right as the zucchini queenie, and this is my partner, Keon, and her in her canning kitchen, where we spend a lot of time, and we've learned so much there, like this processing of a moose. And as you can see, Marcia has no shortage of canning supplies for her wall there of mason jars. So I pick most of Marcia's jams and jellies, or I don't pick the jellies, but I pick the berries that go inside the jellies, like the fireweed and blueberries and lingonberries. That's how we clean the berries with a fan. I witnessed my first birth when I first moved to her property. And then I really understood how much work there was after that. A schedule of a milking animal is a lot. And milking and babies mean milk and yogurt and my personal favorite, butter. We've done lots of beekeeping together, nukes and putting them into hives. And this is Marcia on the top right inspecting Keon and I's attempt to catch a swarm. And lots of extraction. Also, we've done lots of pork. Like Keon is known as Pig Boy on the farm. And so he's done everything from artificial insemination to helping when one of our sows need help in birth, to castration, to, this is the bottom left picture here, is dunking a pig and scraping off the hair, a technique we're still perfecting. But of course, our favorite, bacon and sausage. And of course, I had to pay my respects to the High Tunnel and all the amazing food that comes from it. I'm still pulling out some pole beans for tonight's dinner from last year. But so recently I have come off the farm and I've taken on different roles within the food system. Last year, I completed the Cooperative Extension in Iowa State University's Local Food Leader Certification. I am the sound engineer, producer, and editor of Soundfest Radio, a public radio show and podcast celebrating Alaska's connection to their favorite fish. We are in our second season. I am also in my second season coordinating the Alaska Food Hub, which is an online farmers market serving 4 locations with over 30 vendors. And lastly, I am an aspiring farmer. My partner and I have been lucky enough to be in the process of developing our own small farm and plan to start selling vegetables on the Food Hub soon. So I've thought a lot about what support I need as a farmer, as a beginning farmer, and it's really the connection to other farmers, the people who have their hands in the soil, the people who want to feed other folks. I'm always so wowed by farmers. You know, they just know so much about so many different topics. They're hard workers and business people and scientists and nutritionalists and storytellers and community leaders, which leads me to why I'm here. With the help of Alaska Farmers Market Association, we are launching a statewide chapter of beginning and young Alaskan farmers. This chapter is a branch from the National Young Farmers Coalition, a national nonprofit whose mission is to shift power and change policy to equitably resource our new generation of working farmers. This is their website, and we're going to be modeling the chapter and their processes, if not being associated with them. So whether you're actually young at heart, or in a midlife career shift, this chapter is seeking your voice. We want contacts in every region of the state, and we want input from all farming and ranching sectors. Reindeer herders, cattlemen, kelp farmers, urban farmers, hydroponic operators, orchard tenders, beekeepers, market gardeners, hay farmers. If you're feeding your community, we want to hear from you. The chapter will serve as a connecting point, not only for us and our stories, but will be a base for other agricultural organizations advocating for our food system. We'll be a group shaped, led, and tended by farmers. Together, we can map our path, where we've been and where we're going, share information, serve as a connecting point, and help grow the future we want. As beginning farmers and aspiring farmers, we are stronger together, advocating, sharing skills, coordinating efforts, and building relationships with each other, existing organizations, and elected officials. Let's soar ideas and pollinate our future. If you're interested, the next step is to take the survey. It's designed to gauge chapter interest, gain insight, and give us direction. So please join the chapter, shape our community. I'm excited to be on this journey, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say. I will definitely send these links in the chat after I'm done.
Yes, please do add those links in the chat. Great job. Anyone have a question? We have a couple minutes.
Yeah, Kyra, I have a question. I was just curious how you ended up working on a farm. How did you find that job and come up?
Kyra Wagner is just through community grassroots. I was actually working a different job, and I had told Kyra that I wanted to work on a farm, and I just got a call from Marcia, and we just hit it off, and that's how it happened. She saved us. She's my Alaskan mom for sure.
Anyone else have a question?
Yeah, just gonna jump in. Hey, so you were saying that not connected currently to the Young Farmers Coalition, and that's because it's a whole statewide thing. It's not regional. So I think this is incredible, just jumping out on your own to make this happen for our state, and using young farmers as a model. I've been a member since, I don't even remember, 2013. So I'm excited to see this go forward. Way to go, Kyra.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, they're also going through a whole overhaul of their strategic planning. I received just kind of like an amber light of what, they don't know if they're going to continue doing chapters, but they have lots of great work behind them, and they've mapped the path. So I remember being the in a breakout room with you once, and I had kind of pitched this idea, and I've tapped into that, your reaction multiple times to like keep going forward, because you were just like, yes.
Yeah, we always need new, young, beginning farmers. We need those here. So, all right, we will switch over now to Nick.
Can everybody see my PowerPoint?
Yes, we can see your.
Okay, great. Yeah. Hi, my name is Nick Schlosstein. I'm the co-owner of FoundRoot. We're a small family business in Haines that specializes in open seeds proven for northern growers. My wife and I moved from Haines from South Central due to its unique microclimate, with the purpose of starting a farm to breed seeds for our bioregion. From 2017 to 2020, we established a half-acre intensive market garden in a field that had been horse pasture for many years. And we were selling to 40+ households a week at our farm stand. We were one of the only flower growers in Southeast Alaska and had 7 wholesale accounts in Haines and Juneau, and had grown 9 seed varieties for our catalog. By the end of 2020, we'd cut an additional 5,000 square feet of field space, established an RCS high tunnel, and hired our first employee for the next season with the goal of expanding to a full acre. We've been able to accomplish all of this because we were renting the farmland from a local nonprofit at an affordable price. The advantages of this were low startup costs. We were able to access land that we otherwise couldn't have afforded. We could buy all of our supplies and equipment without going into debt, which lowered our financial pressure and also gave us a bit of breathing room while we found a market for our produce. The disadvantage of this were we had no long-term security on the land. It was a year-to-year rental agreement. There was basically no infrastructure. There wasn't a cohesive vision for this plot of land. The governing board had no experience with agriculture or a specific interest in it, and there was no official line of communication to them. So we kind of, tried to operate as under the bar as we could, and not ask for a whole lot. And December 2020 happened. There was a record flood here in town. It caused a lot of damage throughout town. We lost a couple community members to it. This is what it did to our field. I took this picture the day after the flooding and sent it to our landlords, and didn't really get much back for about 5 months. And then a couple of days before we were about to start working on the again in the spring, we had received an email that said we weren't allowed back on the land. There was some sort of concern of contamination, but nobody was talking to us because we didn't have a line of communication or a real structure to interact and solve problems like this. We probably could have figured out a way to grow seed or flowers during the next summer and repaired the land, but that wasn't an option. So when I finally did get a hold of somebody, it became clear that there wasn't really a future for us on this land, and we had to just move on with our lives. So where we are today. Together with an angel investor, we secured land in Haines that we'll be restarting our farm on in summer 2020. We preserving it in agricultural lands in perpetuity. Our plan is to make it an incubator space for food security projects that can work collaboratively and share infrastructure. And we hope to create a model that will be useful and replicable in other communities throughout Alaska, because we don't want what happened to us to happen to anyone else. As we move forward, we're looking at a number of other models and properties that we've been on, and also some of the research we've come up with. One of the first ones is Equilibrium Farm. I had a chance to visit in 2019. It's a owner-tenant arrangement on a large plot of land called South 47 outside of Redmond, Washington. The land's protected for agriculture in perpetuity by the owners, and the owners do want to preserve agriculture there. So they rent the land to about 5 tenants, and they have shared access to the road and as well as watering, and they rent on 5-year leases. Alex Meisel of Equilibrium, he told me some of the shortcomings of this arrangement, and it's basically the same thing we had. It was a lack of communication between owners and tenants. There's no real active management. The 5-year lease is really helpful for them to be able to plan, but it's just long enough that they can keep going, but not long enough to do anything in the long run. The maintenance responsibilities are pretty unclear, and luckily they all get along, but there's nothing really to resolve conflict if there was conflict. And because of the short lease, they don't really, there's a lot of redundant infrastructure. Everybody has their own cold storage and wash stations and everything else. There's just a lot of excess buildings. Another example we have here is Finn River, which I think is pretty cool. It was a local business called Finn River Farm and Cidery. They operate a orchard as well as a restaurant and cidery on the property, and they were able to purchase 50 acres of disused farmland, and it was all financed locally by a local investment opportunity network in Jefferson County, Washington. And with that large chunk of land, they've allowed other collaborators to be on the land, so they're renting to a number of groups. At the bottom here. Sorry, that there's a lot of successes with it. They're a catalyst for community there. It's a larger business giving back to the community by providing access to smaller organizations. They plan on success of single business to maintain the whole thing, but I think it's a really good opportunity in other places where maybe a business is buying a large chunk of land and can actually find other collaborative businesses to work that land with them. And finally, this is the one we're most excited about. It's the Agrarian Trust Commons model, and it's kind of what we're looking at most closely. What this is a national 501c3 that works with local 501c2s to hold and administer farmland. They have a really extensive legal framework to make sure that the land stays in agriculture and is protected. And their focus is on removing land from real estate speculation, basically, and a continuity of and accountability of management of that land. So how does it solve the problems that I identified in the other examples here? Well, with land insecurity, the nonprofit holds the land in deed and they provide long-term leases up to 99 years. So that allows folks to plan ahead for their future. They can put in permanent infrastructure. They know they have access to it. Long-term stewardship. Well, you come up with a ecological plan for the farm. So that can be habitat protection that already exists, habitat restoration, as well as farming practices to ensure that the soil stays healthy and that nobody is depleting it or using chemicals on it where they're not allowed. Equity. So because a farmer is not owning land right now, most farmers, want to retire by selling their farm. If you don't own the land, how do you do that? Well, you own the infrastructure. So if you're building a 10-acre farm on a piece of land, you've put in a building, you don't necessarily own the land, but you own the infrastructure. And so when you sell your business, you can sell that as part of it. There's also the potential in some places, they've created retirement funds in which the money collected by the commons, some of it can go into a retirement fund, and there's potential for organizing group healthcare. So the one problem that happens a lot is redundant infrastructure. And because there's a long-term plan for this land, you actually can set up shared infrastructure like fencing, cold storage equipment, cleaning stations, and all of the above. So there's the ability to plan forward and work together. So this is a picture from them of their governance structure, and it's governed by a commons board. There's always two people from the national organization on the board, which helps keep everything flowing because they have the expertise and the experience with all of this. But there's accountability to the leasees. So there's one-third of the board is always people leasing, that are leasing land and farming it are on the boards. They're making decisions as well. And then one-third of the board is from the local community, and that can be people involved in food security activities, or it can be people that have useful skills like accounting, marketing, or some sort of technical mechanical skill. And community members community members can provide input, but they're not necessarily voting unless it's the people that are put on the board. And so you can see it's all governed by the ecological steward farm and practice standards. And then the board has a bunch of duties like budget management, acquiring new land or structures, and reporting back to the community that they serve. So there's a lot of accountability on all levels here. That's what really appeals to us. So as we're moving forward, we're hoping to share more relatively soon about the specific land we're working on. We ever-evolving process. We're open to hearing more from other people's ideas, and we just encourage everybody here, if there's land that could be activated in your community for a plan like this, just think about it. It could be something that the borough or city, state, or even a religious organization or a school owns. Maybe they want to make it into a shared space like this. And so as we get more information, as we go forward, keep in touch with us. We hope to update you with a lot more specifics soon.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks.
And if there's a question, we can take one. If not, we will move on to Emily, if you're ready.
I am, and I'm Nick, I'm gonna pick up right where you left off because I'm talking about farming on land you don't own. So let's see, here we go. Only mine is in the city, so it's a little bit different. So my name's Emily Becker, and I am the president of the Alaskan Master Gardeners Anchorage chapter, and I also help coordinate the Alaska School Gardens Network, and I am a garden specialist at Rural Cap. But really, none of those things have to do with what I'm talking about today. This is just stuff that I do in my neighborhood, which is planting on public land, and I'm in Anchorage. This is in Airport Heights. And I'm going to tell you about some projects that we do on these little pockets of public land, easements, if you will, and how you might be able to do this as well. Okay, so what are these spaces I'm talking about? Usually in Anchorage, I'm talking about little pockets created by traffic calming projects. This is a very classic one you see a lot of in Anchorage. It's called a choker. And you can see the little green spaces there are where the city has plants, and both the plants and the road design are designed to make traffic slow down. And they are all over town. They're all over Anchorage. If you start looking, you'll see them. So they're usually in neighborhoods and near homes. So this is an example of one in my neighborhood. It's just located at the end of the street, just a little strip of land. And we call, this one's right near Fire Island Bakery in Airport Heights, if you've ever been here. And you can see these beautiful crabapple trees. So that's just one little example. Now, it is not these spaces. Okay, so this is the traffic circle on Dowling. There's a couple of these. Do not plant. Do not even look at these for planting. Traffic engineers get very, very, very nervous when people talk about, planting in these public spaces. And I'm not, this is not a city program where you like adopt a little space. I'm not going to give you somebody's email to contact like, oh, I want to adopt the space. It's very, very informal. They do know what we're doing and they do work with us, but they also, they really don't want people to do things that are unsafe. So don't go out and like do something stupid because you'll ruin it for everybody. Okay, this is the example of what I'm talking about. So this is like a little mini traffic circle. And again, this is in Airport Heights. And again, these are projects that are, they're safety projects. They're really not gardening projects, although the city does, they do take a lot of thought. They put a lot of thought into picking plants, to go in these spaces. But unfortunately, there's like almost zero money for upkeep. And what happens, and what happened in our neighborhood, was that within a few years after they put in these traffic calming places, they could, oh, could you not see my slides? Sorry, I guess got a weird message.
Oh, they're coming through fine.
Oh, great. Okay.
Ryan.
So they basically turn into weedy spots. So it really is an opportunity for neighbors to take care of the places if you want to. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you 4 different little public easements in our neighborhood that we've taken over and that we put plants into, and a lot of them are food-based. There's actually even more off this map, and I'm just going to do 4 examples since this is a lightning talk. And the way we organize it's very informal, but each of these spots has a champion that decides what's going to kind of be planted there. And then sometimes we schedule work parties where people come and get stuff done, or people just go independently and get their work done. So I'll go from west to east here. So starting on the left side. So this is the triangle, and this was put in at the corner, to block off a road. And when the city planted it, they put in really beautiful plants, But, you know, within about 5 to 10 years, it had been completely overrun by bird vetch, such that the bird vetch was like killing all the other vegetation. So we slowly went in there and like just, you know, remove the bird vetch. And then we decided to plant apple trees and haskap bushes. And we got a little grant from the city to do that. And so it's just like, you know, little space that is now got some food in it, and there's plenty more space. You know, if we have more volunteers, we can plant even more apple trees there. And we've been putting down a really thick layer of mulch to kind of tamp down the bird vetch. And then this is actually that space I showed you right at the beginning. This is right across from Fire Island Bakery. You know, you can see the crabapple trees really needed pruning. It had been like, it had, you know, it was bird vetch, dandelions, all kinds of stuff in there, and it was kind of ugly. And we took it over, and the champion that loves this space, she really loves flowers. Really, as soon as we sort of freed the weeds, the salvia came back, the irises came back. We have a really awesome rhubarb plant and some black currants there, some chives, strawberries. It's a really awesome little spot there. Okay, now there it is again with the, you can see the rhubarb on the left and the crab apples in bloom. It's just awesome. Now this was that little circle I also showed you. So this is like this is a Google Maps photo, one of the rare photos that show one of the places like right after it was planted in the city, and you can see it's really beautiful. But I actually took this over for my Master Gardener project. As you know, Master Gardeners have to do volunteer work. And when I wish I'd taken pictures, but I didn't. It had like the biggest dandelions I'd ever seen, which are a valuable plant, but it also had tons of bird vetch. And we turned that over, you know, to just some flowers, and we plant corn and strawberries there. There is a new champion that is in charge of this spot, and she's got lots of fun plans for this summer. All right, and this kind of like, this is sort of the pinnacle of our work. So we, because we had this reputation and we had this experience of working with these spaces, when the city put in this traffic calming piece in 2020, they actually came to us and said, what do you want here? And this was also because our community council president helped advocate for us. And so we told them we wanted food. And so they planted, we had 3 apple trees there and a lot of perennial fruits. And then we also put in 2 hay bales for annuals. So you can see there, this was the team of volunteers who planted in 2020. It's just a really cool little space with, places for lots of food. And this was in 2021. We had it was really fun. We had a 3rd grade class come and harvest the food. There's quinoa up in the left there. So it's just an awesome opportunity for you. So the challenges, well, safety is a big challenge. So you want to pick places that are, safe, that, they're traffic calming, spots. So that's usually next to traffic. So you have to, really take on a space that's pretty safe. And of course, people to do the work is always a challenge. It is work in the end. And then water. So, you really have to think about water, because a lot of times these spots are away from water. We're lucky that somebody in the neighborhood knows like one of the women that drives the city water truck. And so we have kind of an in on that. We make sure that she comes and waters it a couple times a week. But, the opportunities are huge. Like if you start looking around your city, I know here in Anchorage, every time I ride my bike through Fairview and Mountain View, I'm like, oh my God, there's all this space that, you could just slap an apple tree in there, and like in 20 years, you could have an awesome tree. And so there's just lots of places for beauty, more beauty. You can build community. I've met lots of people through this. And then of course, more food. All right.
Well, that looks like a fun project. And we do have a couple minutes if anyone has any questions.
The quinoa was good. Yeah, it made it to, I would say it made it to maturity, and the kids took it and they hung it up in their classroom and dried it and then processed it. Yeah, I was surprised. Like, when I grew the quinoa, I was like, wait, this is lamb's quarters. And it is, it's Chenopodium. And it was really fun to see. Thanks. Oh,
Emily, okay.
I see Cindy's question. We is just the neighbors, people living in Airport Heights.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, an opportunity to get more youngsters involved in producing food and learning how to grow. All right, next up we have Lisa.
Hello.
I will get your okay, and can you see this is the correct presentation, right?
Yeah, that looks great. Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Lisa and I'm a regional representative with MarketLink. Thank you to the Alaska Food Policy Council for hosting me and allowing me to talk about our grant program. Next slide. So first, what is MarketLink? MarketLink is a program of the National Association of Farmers Market Nutrition Programs that was awarded grant funding by the USDA in 2019 to specifically help farms and farmers markets accept SNAP. A company, Novadia Group, that developed an app called FitRoW, which is used in conjunction with a free card reader equipped to process SNAP EBT payments. Next slide. Uh-oh. Sorry, my internet just cut out. So I'll quickly give a brief overview of the steps of the program. The first step is to fill out the eligibility assessment on our website at marketlink.org/apply. This will only take a couple minutes and get you connected to one of our regional representatives. And I'll cover a little bit more about what eligibility means in the next slide. Step 2 is to become a SNAP authorized retailer with the USDA if you are not already. You can do this on your own with our guidance and help, or we can even submit the application on your behalf. And I'll cover that a little bit more in a second. Once you're approved for SNAP, you get your account set up with TotalPayGo. And then the last step is you get your card reader shipped to you and you'll be ready to accept SNAP payments. Next slide. So like I mentioned, the first step is to fill out the eligibility assessment on our website. And this is to determine if you're eligible for the free grant funded equipment. If you're not eligible for the equipment, we still have a lot of ways in which we can help you out, which I'll cover more in the next slide. I don't have time to get into all the details, but the main takeaway of this slide is that if your business meets the USDA definition of a direct marketing farmer, so someone who grows and produces their own agricultural products, or a farmer's market, so a group of agricultural producers that come together at a fixed location to sell to the public, not a functioning state-funded already, and you have utilized our grant after October 2019, then you most likely will be eligible. If you're unsure, you can always just contact us and we can help you determine if you're eligible before you apply. Next slide. Sorry, next slide.
Is it showing that I moved to the next one?
Oh, there we go. Thank you. So like I mentioned, there are ways in which we can help you if you're covered for a grant, and ways in which we can help you even if you are not. So the first line there says, regardless if you are grant eligible, we can help you with the USDA SNAP application, which I'll cover more in the next slide. If you are grant eligible, then you will receive the free SNAP card reader and a 1-year subscription to the TotalPayGo. If you are not eligible, TotalPayGo's products are still available for purchase, or we can help you find other options that will work for you. The printer waiver there refers to a waiver that we wrote into our grant that allows anyone using our equipment to not have to provide a printed receipt, because the app allows you to provide a text or emailed receipt. If you're not grant eligible, then you would need to provide a printed receipt per the USDA regulations. The last 2 points here are basically just saying that if you have any questions of anything regarding SNAP, we are here to help you. SNAP EBT technical assistance is just part of the work we do. So whether you're a farmer, a farmer's market, or any other kind of business, or just have any other questions, we can help you out. Next slide. All right. I think so. Okay. So finally, the USDA SNAP application. So like I mentioned, we have a couple ways in which we can help. The first is to support you through the process if you want to submit it on your own. We have really handy instructional guides for you to use, or we can just be standing by to walk you through it and answer any questions as you submit it on your own. But the second way is we can actually submit the application on your behalf. As you can see by the slide, there's a lot of information and the process can be pretty complicated. So we highly recommend you allow us to submit it on your behalf. But either way, if you submit it on your own or we submit it for you, these are the basic steps. Whether you apply on your own or have a MarketLink representative apply for you, you will first need to identify a responsible official for your SNAP program. This generally depends on how your business is structured, but most often it will be the owner of a farm or farmer's market, or if you are run by a nonprofit, typically it's the executive director. A good general rule is this person should be someone with the authority to sign legal documents on behalf of the business, and someone who is okay with being responsible to ensure that the SNAP program is used correctly. Once you determine who that person is, you are then ready to apply on the USDA website. If you do it on your own, you first need to create an account with the USDA so that you can access the application. If you have a MarketLink representative do it for you, then you would simply need to schedule an appointment with us and we would send you everything to get ready ahead of time. Then during the appointment, we use our login and fill out the application for you. Once the application is submitted, the second step is to upload some required supporting documents to the USDA website and how your business. Yep. Yep. And then, of course, if you're a nonprofit, you would upload your determination letter. So once everything's uploaded, the USDA will start reviewing your application. And during this time, they sometimes ask for additional information requests. So it's a good idea to keep an eye on your email and your physical mail, because if you miss a deadline, you sometimes have to completely start over. So this is one benefit of us doing it for you as well, because we can look out for those information requests for you and let you know if anything is needed. And then finally, once you're approved, you will get an email with your SNAP permit and a physical copy in the mail. Next slide. So once you're approved for SNAP, you're then ready to get set up with a point of sale device. And now I'll talk about what the MarketLink grant covers. So before we get into that, I want to just give you an idea of what it looks like. So through our grant, like I mentioned earlier, we cover a 1-year subscription to this app called Total Pay Go that you would download on your phone or tablet that you use for your business. You would then pair this device to the second piece we provide, the Bluetooth card reader that you can see there on the right, and you use the app and the reader to process transactions. So if you're familiar with Square, it's pretty similar to that to give you an idea. Next slide. So this means you would need to provide your own smartphone or tablet to run the Total Pay Go app on. This can be your personal device, a device you already use for the market. It can be an Android or an Apple device, and it doesn't matter what carrier you have. As long as your device has Bluetooth capabilities, access to Wi-Fi, cellular data, then you should be good to go. Next slide. So again, to summarize, the top part reviews what is covered through the MarketLink grant, the card reader, the 1-year subscription, and also through Total Pay Go, they do not charge any transactions for SNAP on the business side or for the customer, the printer waiver that we talked about earlier. And then Total Pay Go also has optional ways you can add credit and debit processing. But in this short time, I unfortunately don't have time to get into that, but I'll leave my contact at the end and you can reach out to me if you're interested in that. And then after the first year, if you want to continue to use Total Pay Go, you would just need to pay for the subscription, which is either $191 a year or $19.95 a month. Of course, if your market or farm is open seasonally, you can just pay for the months that you are open. But you'll still get those no transaction fees for SNAP, continued use of the card reader, and you still have the printer waiver. The hope with this grant is that it gives you a year to try out the system and see if it's going to work for you, and hopefully build a big enough customer base to justify the cost of the subscription. And next slide should be my last one. Yeah, okay, so if in this short time I've convinced you, you can head to marketlink.org/apply and get connected and fill out our short eligibility assessment to get connected to one of our representatives to start the process. But here's the rest of our contact information if you wanted to ask questions before applying or questions about anything else. All right, thank you.
And there is a question in the chat from Heidi. Do you know how many Alaska farmers are using Total Pay Go to take EBT payments?
That's a good question. I would need to look that up. I could email it to you, but not offhand. We have a spreadsheet buried somewhere in our Dropbox folder.
If anyone else has any questions, you can raise your hand or take yourself off mute or type it in the chat box.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find that number while you're doing that.
And I suppose if anyone has a question for anyone in the lineup for the afternoon session here. Or everyone's ready to go see the sun outside for a little bit. Why don't, Lisa, maybe you, are there WIC required, like foods that are available for the WIC programs are somewhat different than foods that are available for the SNAP program? And I don't even go too much into detail, but there are different foods on the two different programs, right?
Yeah, and actually in our longer presentation that we sometimes do, we have a graph that shows the FMMP funding versus how much goes into SNAP. And it's pretty shocking how drastic they are. So one way we like to think about a benefit of this program is not only does it access different foods, but it also is a much larger pool of funding and a much larger customer base. So if you're already accepting FMMP, SNAP is like a great next step for you. But to answer your question, yeah, I think with WIC, it's specific foods, or with FMMP, it's like certain fruits and vegetables. I've seen ones for only milk. I've seen ones for only honey. where SNAP is pretty much anything, like it's called the Supplemental Nutrition Program. It's pretty much anything that is going to be taken home to be made into a meal to feed yourself or your family. So like anything that is in its whole form, any packaged foods, pretty much anything that is not a non-food item or things that are not hot and ready to eat or cold and ready to eat, because it's not intended to be a meal supplement. There are versions of SNAP that do that for people who are unhoused or don't have a kitchen, but generally most people have regular SNAP, which is intended to buy groceries, for a simple way to put it. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Robbie and Megan, should we take a little bit longer break?
Yeah, let's take a little break and everyone can go soak in that sunset that's or the sunshine that may be running away.
Don't make the sunset yet, Robbie.